Hey guys, I'm here with the Tinybones historic Brawl deck. We're going to talk about the cards and card choices I've made, and then we're going to get to some gameplay. Let's first talk about the commander himself. The 2-mana 1/2. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent discarded a card this turn, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. And 6 mana, each opponent with no cards and loses 10 life. The play patterns he rewards and the choices I've tried to center around are trying to get him out as quickly as possible, and then discarding opponent's cards, and then cantripping them with Tinybones for card advantage. And then once their hand's empty, have enough mana and control the board so that we can about 2-shot them with his activation. So a couple choices we'll get them right to quickly is Dark Ritual, Mox Amber. Dark Ritual turns at turn 1 Tinybones with a 1-mana discard spell like Fishes, Rumors, Thoughtseize, or Inquisition of Kozilek. To getting it quickly, we can maybe remove some removal from their hand so we can keep Tinybones for later turns. Mox Amber does that on turn 2. You play Tinybones, Mox Amber, and then play your 1-mana discard spell. A lot of times, playing him on turn 2 is not good because it just walks him into removal. Depending on your hand in the game, you can't really play around it, and sometimes it's just something you have to do. Your hand doesn't look good, but we can wait sometimes at turn 2 or turn 3 and not play him immediately. Malakir Rebirth is a great card printed in Zendikar that, sure, maybe it's just a tap land if we're low on lands, but also we can get around 1 removal spell. Also, you could play Liliana Stewart. This is sort of a pet card of mine. I've played a bunch of. Play it turn 1, sacrifice it on turn 2, and Tinybones is getting his trigger. So we're fine with him getting removed on turn 3 if they want to do that. We already got our card. The cards in the 1-mana slot are Bloodchief's Thirst, one of the best removal spells in the game, especially early on, and then Cling to Dust. This wasn't originally in the list, and I wanted a 1-mana cantrip, some more things to do with 1 mana. It can draw you a card, and if you discard a problematic card that they're intending to get back, this can deal with it nicely. There's not a lot of graveyard hate that works well with us because we actually do want to bring things back. One card, maybe if you're just an arena player, you haven't seen a lot, Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. Put up to 1 target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. Exile Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. This is a very strong card, and we almost always have access to it with Tinybones and all our legendaries. And it can very handily value out your opponent. I remember a great game I had with it where I think it was turn 2 or turn 3, had my opponent discard some cards on their hand. They discarded a Agent of Treachery. And yeah, on turn 5, I destroyed one of their creatures, brought him back, and stole their Thassa commander with it. They conceded on the spot. Of course, that's the ultimate ceiling of that card, but it's just a nice 2-for-1 that its only requirement is you have a legendary creature or planeswalker out because it's a legendary sorcery. So we can talk about some of the 2-mana plays we have. Acquisitions Expert and Elderfang Disciple are similar cards. We play Elderfang Disciple instead of the Relentless Rats style of card because it gives an extra party for the human rogue to care about. This hasn't come up very often, but it's one of those optimization choices you can make. Feed the Swarm is pretty required in this format. It is the only way that we can deal with a non-creature enchantment in our deck. It's just a requirement. Null Priest of Oblivion is probably one of the worst cards on the deck. We're just a little low on creatures, and that can have some secondary synergy once we have a lot of mana. It's come up a couple of times where we started to grind the opponent out, and we're both running out of resources, and this can get back something big that we want. Some of our big creatures that it could get back is a Rankle. I find him dying a lot when I play him, I very frequently haste him out, have a sacrifice. Everyone sacrifice a creature, and I sacrifice Rankle. I use him a lot for a 4-mana removal. Cavalier of Night is a great card, more removal. That we can just throw Tinybones under the Cavalier of Night bus to get their problematic creature out of town. And Nixithid, another one of my pet cards. 3 mana 7/7. Almost never, but it's a fun card that I enjoy. And it can sometimes run them down very quickly. And Nighthawk Scavenger synergizes with all our discard effects. It's just normally played in a mill setting in standard or historic with rogues. But hey, it works. It'll be a 4/3, 5/3 most of the time you play it, as long as you've hit them with at least one discard and removed a creature. So it's a pretty good card. Sign in Blood is the only straight draw card in the deck. Cling to Dust doesn't really count, but it's just because it's the best. Better than Divination and a burn spell in a pinch. Always good. Eliminate, a classic, mainly because it can hit some of the 3-mana planeswalkers that we would have trouble killing because we don't have early attackers. Tinybone's not going to attack for you. And definitely need this in a pinch. So let's talk about some of the 3-mana discard spells. Davriel is a great war planeswalker that can also help you close out games once their hand's empty. But a Tinybones on 2, Davriel on 3 is just pure value, and set yourself up for a win as long as they're not interacting with you, which cannot be guaranteed. Heartless Pillage is one of the better Mind Rot effects. Mind Rot is a 3-mana sorcery that target opponent discards 2 cards of their choice. Heartless Pillage has some extra tech. If you've attacked this turn, create a treasure token. I find it very often that in Brawl as a format, there's a lot of people that are ramping or playing things that aren't interacting with the board. So we can Tinybones on 2, attack on 3, Heartless Pillage, and then we have access to a 5-mana spell on turn 4. That's very good. Inscription Ruin is another Mind Rot effect that also has removal or bring back a creature from the graveyard, and you want to spend 7 mana, you can do all 3. Unburden is the newest card in the deck. It's just has the added benefit of late game. If you draw it, you can just pay 2 mana and cycle this a different card when their hand's empty. These effects are not completely useless if the opponent has an empty hand late game. What you can do is you could cast, say, an Unburden, targeting the opponent, full control, in response to the Unburden, activate Tinybones. And this is if they had a way to draw a card, maybe they had an artifact, they sacrifice it, draw a card, or they have a Castle Lochthwain or something. They can choose. They can either draw their card, prevent the 10 life, but then they'll miss the card draw, and you'll get to replace it with the Tinybones at the end of the turn. Giving that as hard decisions to opponent is always good, and I think a sign of good deck building to make them make it harder for them to play. Let's talk about the newest, hottest card in this deck. So it's a 4-mana, exile target creature, planeswalker. That's great, absolutely. We always do more removal, right? But hold on. If we play the student cost, an opponent will draw a card, and that's perfect. Oh my goodness. Those late game scenarios where they don't have any cards in their hand, they draw their card for turn, they play their card for turn. We're never going to get them to discard. Well, now we can make them draw. Rankle sort of has this effect as well. You can make them draw a card. Unfortunately, the templating, you can't make them draw it and then discard it. But if you have another effect, Rankle works with that too. Skull Raid from Kaldheim, not Strixhaven, but same Mind Rot effect, except where if their hand is empty or they have less than 2 cards in the hand, you will draw the difference. This is a great card. I love it. I don't find I foretell it that much. I generally have things to do on turn 2. But hey, Tinybones on turn 2, Unburdened on 3, Skullright on 4. You've won that game. If they have not removed Tinybones, there's no coming back from that. They have an empty hand and you have a full hand. Price of Fame is just an absolute rock star removal card in this format in Brawl because so many legendary creatures running around. It sort of hurts around the Planeswalker since EDH, you have to have legendary creatures, but in Brawl you could play your Planeswalkers. It's sort of a dead card against those decks, but those aren't very common because it's hard having a Planeswalker as your commander. But Blood on the Snow is the only Wrath we have in the deck. That may be wrong. I used to play the 4-mana Exile Odd or Even card. And I replaced it in Kaldheim when Blood on the Snow came out. I didn't like the Exile effect, and there was a lot of times where I was killing like one of my things, and I wasn't killing their entire board. So this is great where we have Tinybones out in the field. We still kill all the creatures and bring Tinybones back. I wouldn't plan on this X being any more than 3. Sometimes you get lucky and you've drawn a bunch of swamps in your game. We are playing snow-covered swamps. But it's not common, and don't plan on it. Professor Onyx, another new card from Strixhaven. Absolutely great. Absolutely worth the 6 mana you spend on her. 3 mana, get their biggest threat. Or, I'm sorry, -3, you get the biggest threat. And honestly, if I play her and I plus her, I don't feel pressured by their creatures or whatever. I'm plussing her. I've probably won that game. The value it gets in the drawing 1 card out of 3, so you get the card selection. It's a good card, probably, out of the 3. It's great. I've never ulted her because people just concede. Does it take them very long to recognize that they've lost? It's a great card. Black Market, another one of the historic anthology cards. You probably haven't seen it a lot in Arena. Whenever a creature dies, put up a charge counter on Black Market. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add a black for each charge counter on Black Market. This synergizes very, very good with all of our removal. And even if we're wrathing our things away, we're getting ourselves mana for later turns. And Tinybones is a mana sink. If we have 12 mana on a turn, that's good. We have things to spend that mana on. And always good. Aspect of Lamprey, another one of those weird commons that probably no one's ever played with outside of draft. It's just a good way to get yourself some life. Like, we have a lot of ways of losing life. Sign in Blood, Tinybones, and then just decks hitting us in the face with creatures. You'd be surprised how much this lifelink is relevant on a Rankle or a Nexithid. And sometimes I just put on Tinybones with absolutely no synergy. He only has 1 attack, and he loses your life at the end of the turn. He doesn't do damage to you. But hey, they discard 2 cards too, so it's a good card. I would say Black Market and Aspect of Lamprey are probably the 2 out of the 3 with Null Priest of Oblivion. It's the 3 worst cards in the deck that I would be looking to replace. But, the deck seems to perform pretty well, and you don't always need to replace some of the worst cards as long as they have synergy with your deck. Some specific things I want to talk about is why I'm playing Vicious Rumors instead of Divest and Duress. A lot of times, because of how Tinybones work, we need them to discard the card. Sure, I'd love to look at their hands. I'd love to play a bunch of Thought Seizes. That goes without saying. It's the best card, the best discard spell in Arena. But we really can't miss. Inquisition of Kozilek is iffy. I've never missed on it before, but I've only played so many games since Strixhaven came out. Divest and Duress have missed, absolutely. I would say Duress is probably more likely to not miss. If you got to budget this, use Duress. So Vicious Rumors, guaranteed that as long as they have a card in their hand, they're discarding it. It's been great when, here's a very common thing that happens late game. They keep a land in their hand, so you can't activate Tinybones. So, we have our Rankles, we have our Lilianas to get around that, even our Mind Rot effects. Vicious Rumors works too. And whereas Thoughtseize and Inquisition of Kozilek, Duress, and Divest would all not work in that situation. A not common. A new Mind Rot effect called Go Blank from Strixhaven is your opponent discards 2 cards, and then they exile their graveyard. I'm not playing that card because I do not want to exile their entire graveyard because of Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. We just use Fling to Dust instead. Another shockingly missing card from this is Turgid. Don't worry, I tried. It doesn't work. It's just not good. We have their hand empty by turn 5 or 6, and we cannot spend 5 mana on Turgid into an opponent with an empty hand. It's a waste of mana, and it is not good into removal. It's just I've played it so many times and always been disappointed. Another of the 6 mana big dudes we could play: Han of Hightower, Urgoros, the empty one, and Torment of Hailfire aren't worth playing because we have Tinybones instead. We can just end games instead of playing big mana creatures. Some ideas of cards that are not in the deck, though I could see playing. The Eldest Reborn is a fun saga from the original saga series. Its first mode is opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and the second is discards a card in their hand, and then the third is grab something out of a graveyard and put it on the battlefield. Sure, it's 5 mana. That'd be fun. Maybe replace it with Black Market. I don't know if you don't want to get big manas. A new card from Strixhaven that maybe we'd want to play is called Flunk. It's colorless black instant. A creature gets -X/-X, whereas it's 7 minus the cards in their hand. So the less cards in their hand, the bigger it is as a removal piece. I don't know what we'd replace with it. I couldn't get rid of Eliminate. We are weak to Planeswalkers, so we need that. All of our removal spells do other things, like Inscription Ruin, removal spell, but it also could be a Mind Rot effect. Murderous Rider, also a lifelinker creature, very important. Baleful of Mastery, one of the best cards in the deck. Price of the Fame, one of the best cards in the deck. Our removal is very competitive, and I don't know what I'd remove it from, but probably something. So here's the land-based. Snow-covered swamps, of course. Cathalog Queen, honestly not that good, but it's never untapped because we only play basic swamps. Cabal Stronghold, very fun card, especially because late game we need lots of mana. Turn 10, 11, we're untapping with 12, 15 mana. That's great, especially we have a mana dump for it. Barren Moor, not normally a land, maybe a turn 1 swamp if you're keeping a 2 or 3 lander. And then we're playing Tinybones on 2. We don't have a lot of turn 1 plays. Mainly just cycling this to redraw. Faceless Haven, honestly, I've been a little disappointed. Of course, we're playing lots of snow lands, and that's not the issue. It's just late game, we don't want to spend the 3 mana to activate it because we want to activate Tinybones instead. We don't have the 10 mana it needs. We only have like 8 mana. It also is a little anti-synergy with Black Market. We cannot use the mana from it to activate it. We have to use the snow lands. Unfortunate. Field of Ruin, just because it's sort of free and get rid of some problematic lands that they have. Unfortunately, since this is a singleton format, this Field of Ruin is much better in constructed play, where people short themselves on basics. Maybe they're playing a 3-color deck, 60-card 3-color deck, and they only have like 1 swamp. It's a lot of the historic Sultai decks are playing that. So if you want to cut them off blue or green, you can just cut off their colors. It's great. Since everyone's playing singletons, everyone's playing basics. Even the 5-color decks are playing cultivates with like 6 or 7 basics. It's unfortunate. These lands, I put them over here because these are probably just going to be lands. The Plaque Predation, you've probably never played this card before. It's not good, but hey, it's free tap land. We can play tap lands in this deck because we don't have turn 1 plays normally. Hagra Mauling, an interesting instant. Sometimes it costs 3 mana. Not very much in Brawl, but it's another free one. And then Agadeem's Awakening. Sure, sometimes we cast this where X equals 2 or 3, trying to get a Tinybones back because we didn't want to pay for them from the command zone. But that's the deck. Let's go get into some gameplay. All right, it's Muldrotha. Unfortunate, sort of is pretty good against our discard effects. You can play around things in the graveyard quite nicely. I like this hand. I think we're actually going to Inquisition of Kozilek on turn 1, so we can make way for Tinybones. Try to get rid of removal. That's what we're looking for at this Inquisition. Interesting. So Elspeth's Nightmare does hit Tinybones, so that's guaranteed. But unfortunately, they're going to be fighting if Old Gods. Tinybones, not a big deal. We're gonna get some value, and we're gonna be just fine. Maybe it's two. Maybe they don't draw land and they have 2 tap lands. Nice. So here's, Heartless Pillage is a great card. We're gonna be ramping a little bit, attacking. Discard your cards, and I'm gonna ramp 5 mana. I wonder if we can next turn play Nixithid and try to pressure them into getting rid of him because they're scared of getting hit in the face a bunch. Ooh. That is not a very good card. When it dies, I would get the... There's like 4 effects of this being when it ETBs. I would not play one that when it dies. I guess it's because it's at random. It can sometimes be better. I would say it's statistically likely to be better. Okay. Well. Sort of want acquisitions expert and then Nixithid. Hitting them with another Unburden is just so good right now. Yeah, I can't resist. The pure value. Alright, they better top deck and land, or that Binding of the Old Gods is useless. Nope, they missed it. Alright, well, that's game over. We can do whatever we want. Let's rankle. And then discard. We'll discard Onyx. Well, we're gonna discard Nixithid because we can play Onyx next turn. Giving them a false sense of hope. This is what I love doing. And then Acquisitions Expert. Nope, you don't get your Binding of the Old Gods, I win. So this is, a deck we're trying to hit. It's a greedy ramp deck that just loses to us. Oh no, we'd have to... Oh, that's unfortunate. Here's what we can do. Every way, draw a card. Yeah, but we don't have it. Nice. Grab that because it's synergized with Cabal Stronghold very good, very well. We'll have them discard that card. Nice. Love 2 cards. So they're absolutely going to be grabbing Agent of Treachery on our Onyx. Next turn. That's okay. We can play around that. Oh, by winning the game. Sometimes you don't look at it. Oh no. That's okay. So the correct thing would do the full control thing where we have them discard on Rankle and then activate Tinybones in response. Put that back. Nice. Oh my goodness. See, they're gonna put a target creature planeswalker, and we're gonna cling to dust in response, and they're gonna concede. Never punished for bad plays. And grab that. It's free.
Let's go digging.
Alright. I'm ready for the concede. See ya. Oh, finally got Muldratha. Hell yeah, bruh. Wait. He's dead instantly. Alright, well that was a very easy first game. Absolutely no chance of ever losing that game. The greedy ramp deck. I guess with all of my misplays, but you know, whatever, man. I don't immediately recognize. I think that's the mythic beast that returns. No. Okay, it's free permanents from the top of your library. Yeah. No discard effects. I do not like that. Otherwise, it's perfect hand, you know. I think I'm gonna mulligan it. This is questionable. If this wasn't free, you know, I wouldn't be doing this, but it is free. I like this much better. I am scared of playing this into a red removal spell. Or playing Tinybones into a red removal spell on turn 2. I don't know. We'll see how it feels. Like maybe they tap out for ramping or something. They do have green. Yeah, they're untapped. No way, dude. So this is one of the times where Vicious Rumors would be much better as duress, because we could target their counter spell or removal spell. I don't know what they're untapping with. So because of that, we're going to unburden. Unburden still 2-for-1s. They have to get rid of 2 cards. And I'm expecting this to be countered anyways. But if it's not countered, we're still getting card advantage. It's just not insane card advantage with Tinybones. So, you can do whatever they want. One thing that I have an issue with the Arena client. I don't know if that spell, when we were sitting there waiting, I didn't know if it was resolved and they were choosing what spells to discard, or if it was if they were thinking about countering it. There's no way to tell that I'm aware of. If you do, leave a comment below. How to tell if it's resolved or if they're looking to discard.
Address me as queen of the deck, please.
So yeah, we're just attacking their hand if they're gonna run around being untapped. I don't want to play Tinybones into removal. This is pretty rough. I don't know what to discard. Because Dogmoth's File Offering is pretty cool against a permanent deck, and they are a cool permanence deck. Let's go with Cling to Dust. It's still castable in the graveyard later. And it's not a graveyard deck. This is not a graveyard deck. Yeah, there's the removal. See. Honestly, that... Oh, does that only hit creatures? That's pretty funny. That's why they discarded it, because they can't hit Liliana with it. Big cost. Yep. Nice. So now... discard their 2 cards in hand. Power Promise, that's a weird... Yet. They just need a land to re-up with memory. But hey man, I get re-up too. That's not a big deal. Interesting. It's not something I would have done, but... So, this is one of those times where I was saying Vicious Rumors is great because it's a guaranteed hit. I'm going to get the card in his hand, even if it's a land. Clock Predation, or Divest, or Durest are not guaranteed hits in this situation. It was a instant. Or, yeah, an instant, so... That's fine. Can we play as a land? Yeah. We just want our mana. Sort of offensive to me, but that's fine. They're about to get, Oh no! I milled Field of the Dead. They can't get Field of the Dead. That's pretty funny. So... we could maybe Dark Ritual. If we had one more land, we could Dark Ritual and activate Tinybones. Unfortunately, it costs a swamp to do it, so we'd only have 5 mana from the 2 swamps and the Dark Ritual mana. Very unfortunate because, you know, we might be able to kill them. We could. Alright, let's just get it started. We still do have Dark Ritual eliminate mana up if they replace something that gets hit by it. Interesting. Do not have any discard effects for the card. Probably going to get 1 land and then something to play. Later, I don't think they're going to get a 4 mana play. Very surprised that there's not been not a single... They've not played a single creature. Like, what is this mutating onto if they're not playing creatures? Like, is it specifically Field of the Dead zombies? Is that the only way they... That would be weird to me, but... Been wanting to get back Liliana's. Really? They didn't get a land? They're very scared, huh? I think I'm gonna do it. I don't have to kill something with this. And I think I just want Liliana. Also sort of expecting this to get countered. But that's fine. It's a blue deck. I haven't seen a counter spell yet, but it's a blue deck. Nice. Let's get this train rolling.
On my terms.
Value, value, value. We're gonna get ready to eliminate. Again, it doesn't hit Aluna, and I don't know. I haven't seen a creature from them, so for them keeping up Malakir Rebirth, I'm not gonna play that as a land. To beat removal.
Too much.
Interesting. I definitely should have attacked first because I want to pressure the life total to get Tinybones activation as a kill. I also want them at 10 health. But if they were to quickly flash in a creature for 3 mana, I wouldn't be able to prevent Tinybones' death, so I cannot attack actually right now. That was a misplay. I only realized once I got to the attack step. Okay. It was just more value, because that's what we do here. We don't play cards that play to the board. Though you're a mutate deck. I've seen very powerful versions of this deck before. Because you just get free stuff out of your deck. Free stuff, dude. I love free stuff. I think I'm gonna blow them out with Dark Ritual, Cling to Dust on the thing they target. That seems worth it to me. Like that, like I could see, like they're frustrated. I've discarded a bunch of their cards. They're mad. Oh, you're gonna exile at response. I'm out. So, yeah. Yeah. Especially because it's Field of the Dead. Am I right? If they have a counterspell, unfortunate. Pretty sure we win if they counter this. Yeah. So they're going to put Field of the Dead in their hand. They're going to play Field of the Dead, get a zombie. But then I'm going to Liliana Tinybones next turn. Game over.
We're doing things my
Forcing them to use the last card in their hand. Made them empty their hand. I still could have done it. I could have played a snow-covered swamp. And then play the discard creature. Removing the card out of their hand. It would have been Xaxes on the mana too. But hey, it's easier when it's just, well, I don't have to do anything. I just press my buttons. Alright, last game. This is going to be maybe a little harder. Looks like an Gruul aggro deck. But hey, we have the Liliana Steward on turn 1 into Tinybones into maybe Unburden. I would very much expect Tinybones to die on their turn 3. Maybe even get stomped on our turn 2. What can you do? We're gonna play our cards. We get blown out, we get blown out. Also had a Liliana Steward been stomped before on their turn 2. Unfortunate. That's probably useful against this deck. I feel like this deck is a... Okay. We could Bloodchief's Thirst the Robber of the Rich, because, you know, I hate Robber of the Rich. Yeah, that's the correct play, man. Doing the sad, technically correct plays are always sad, but I'm not attacking because I don't know. I don't think the damage is going to really match the 1 damage and the potential to blocking a hasted 1/1 in my mind is possible, even though I don't really think it is. Again, let's just be a dick and Swift Gun Rada. They played her, so obviously they do get value with her out. They can play lands off the top of their library, which is essentially like drawing cards. We're a card advantage deck, and I don't feel particularly pressured by them. I was thinking that they were an aggro deck, but I'm felt pressured, so we're not gonna bother. Ooh, Waste Not's an absolutely great draw. Let's go see what we get. If they discard a land, oh they don't. It's creature. Thinking maybe we could unburden them again. Try to get them to discard another land for a free Tinybones, but didn't happen. This does turn on Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. We could even grab their escape creature. But I am expecting Tinybones to get removed. Interesting. That doesn't seem very good to me. Because I can just discard it or block it with a zombie. It's not a removal spell. It seems really weird why they would do that. Yeah, I think the Shame Concede there makes sense to me because I'm fairly certain they were paying 3 mana in their minds to kill Tinybones. And that's just not how that works. So yeah, get him out of here. Alright. Well, those are some fun 3 games. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.